Hey guys, it's Graham. Welcome back to my weekly Amazon FBA video. I hope all my Amazon subscribers are doing well. Today, I just wanted to talk about alleviating a major fear that a lot of people seem to run through before they've set up a product. And the main issue that people have with starting a business is they don't want to lose money, right? They don't want to put in the effort and then not even make any money from it or actually lose money. But with Amazon FBA, the process is so calculated and step by step that if you do things properly, there is almost a 0% chance of failure. And by failure, I mean losing money. So if you do the perfect product research and you set up everything correctly, like I'm going to explain later in the video, but to the point where you do everything as you should, and all this info is stuff that I've talked about, but the worst you can typically do is break even. And you just have to set yourself up in a position where there's a few factors like getting a product with a high profit margin and other things that, as long as you've done even half decent product research, you're gonna almost guaranteed see a profit or break even at the very worst. So basically, I'm going to explain the main reasons that, or the main ways that you can make sure that you don't lose money, even if it's your first product. And I'm also going to try to just alleviate the fear, because the fear is what holds so many people back. And that's usually the main sticking point for people when they want to start up a new Amazon business. So firstly, the main components that come with researching a product properly so that you're not going to lose money, and obviously the goal is to be massively profitable, and that's all you have to focus on. So obviously right away we're looking for products with a low startup cost. If you're only buying 300 to 500 units at the start, which you probably should on your first product, on the first trial run, and you're spending $1 or $2 a unit, that's a lot better than $5 a unit, because it's way less risk up front and you only have to put down $600 or $1,000 for a product rather than $5,000 or something like that. I went pretty crazy on my first order. I spent about $3,000 or $4,000 on my first ever batch of inventory. I was probably overconfident with how well I'd do, but it worked out, so there's no harm. But yeah, the first thing you want to do is just a low order quantity with a product that has a low unit price, because it's much less scary to risk $1,000 up front than $5,000, because you know that, whatever, you lose $1,000, it sucks, but really that's like a week or two of working at a job. So that's the main thing I would start with, is looking for cheap products. And in order to be successful, of course you always need to have enough sales, but having a product with tons and tons of sales doesn't always make it actually less risky, because more competition always comes along with more sales. So actually I think it's less risky to go for a product where the top guys are only selling 100 or 200 units a month, because a lot of people don't even consider those niches worth going into. But they're much, much easier to get to the first page for. They're much easier to just pick up the odd little sale here and there, because I like to go into niches where there's maybe 10 people selling a type of item, and by default then you're going to be on the first page because you'll be 11th, for example, for your main keyword. And just by nature, being on the first page is going to get you sales. So, and that's when it comes back to profit margins. So let's talk about that. If you have a $5 or $10 profit margin, you have a lot more wiggle room than if you have a $2 or $3 profit margin. Or you can go for a $20 profit margin. I mean, obviously the higher the better, but if you see that your competitors are selling at a $10 profit margin, that's a really good sign that you can get in there at basically no risk, because all you need to do is come up with a equal product to theirs, and if you aren't selling and you can't sell, it's not a big deal because you have that $10 of profit margin then that you can just lower the price. And by nature, there are people out there that will, no matter what, they'll just buy the cheapest item. So you know that if there's a large profit margin and a lot of the people in that niche are making a lot, that you can just lower the price to maybe only $3 or $4 profit margin. And that means you're $6 cheaper than the competition. You're by default going to get some sales. Alternatively, if you went into a niche where the profit margins are only $2 to $3 and you can't sell, well, now if you want to drop your price to just sell out your inventory, you're going to have to do it at losing money or break even. So really think about the profit margin and thinking about how much that allows you to drop your price. And the more you can drop your price and still be profitable, the less risk is involved with launching a product. Another thing you can do to minimize the risk of launching your new product is to try to think logistically of, okay, if this product couldn't sell on Amazon, would people in my community be interested in it? Or could I pawn it off? Or would a store maybe want to purchase the inventory off of me for wholesale price? Because if a product can't sell on Amazon, but it's something that nobody would really be interested in, if you think of your friends or something like that, then it's going to be a lot tougher to liquidate and sell off the remaining inventory to someone. But for example, if you did phone cases, I'm not saying you do this because it's wildly competitive, but if you had decided on phone cases and you bought 100 of them or 300 of them and you had a really tough time selling them on Amazon, you could probably over time sell them off to people in your town, people on Facebook Marketplace, people on eBay. It would probably be fairly easy to do because you're buying a phone case for $1 probably, and if you can't sell them on Amazon for $10, that's it's not a bad sign, because I'm sure you could go and literally walk around to random people and be like, hey, I bought a bunch of these phone cases, I'll sell you them for like $3 each. And because you're not dealing with like Amazon fees or other charges, you can pawn them off for super cheap and you're probably going to be able to sell them. So look for a product that actually you could understand people in your everyday life wanting to purchase it off of you, just in case the worst case scenario happens and you just can't sell on Amazon. Obviously, product research, if you do your product research properly, you're gonna sell. Like, I've launched 7 products and they're all successful, and it just comes down to my product research. So do your proper product research, and this probably isn't gonna be an issue, but if it comes down to it, try to pick a product that you could sell off of Amazon easily and make your money back, and that's how you can minimize the risk even more. So I talked about 3 things there, statistically, that can help you lower the risk of having a failed product on Amazon. So we talked about having a high profit margin so that you have more wiggle room to lower your price in case you're having a tough time competing with other sellers. We also talked about going for less competitive products that are getting less sales because they're much easier to break into, and that's another good way to lower your risk. And then we also talked about picking products that are easily liquidated because they have a fairly high demand outside of Amazon. So those 3 combined, if you at least take them into account, you really should have a very good chance of being profitable with your product. Obviously, there are small things that can go wrong, like, people were selling fidget spinners and then all of a sudden there was a ban on them and Amazon removed them. So there's always going to be a tiny bit of risk, but it all really comes down to product research. For the people that are out there, I was kind of one of them, but I pushed through it where I studied and studied and studied and learned about product research as much as I could. And it took me a little bit of extra time to pull the trigger, but I finally did, and I did make myself pull the trigger. For those types of people, if you've truly product researched enough and you know what you're doing because you're the type of analytical person like that, and the only thing holding you back is the fear, just know that you're like 90% of the time going to be successful. The only real people that I hear failing and actually losing money with an Amazon FBA business are the people that rushed into it and heard about what Amazon FBA even was 1 week and had already ordered a product a week later. So basically just don't rush it. As long as you've spent time and really know the product research phase and understand how to find products with low competition, I really don't understand how you can have a product that completely flops. So if that's some reassurance to those of you who are really analytical but don't take action, just know that do your product research properly and spend the time to learn as much as you can, and then act, because most people aren't even doing that proper product research. And like, I promise you that a lot of you guys are like me and are super overthinking on some things and super analytical. Just do it. You're probably going to be successful. And even if you're not, the 3 steps I just talked about will really help you minimize that risk, just in the slight case that something does go horribly wrong. And then I guess the last part of it is just overcoming that fear despite knowing what I just talked about. Even if you know that you have a very low chance of failure with Amazon, some people still just can't get out of their own head. And I mean, there's several things you can think about. Obviously, if you're only risking like $500 or $1,000 on your first product, it's a lot easier to pull the trigger. But still, some people just have the irrational fear of starting their business. So just keep in mind that you're never going to achieve what you want to achieve in life if you don't take action. Whether that be with anything, relationships, business, working out. If you don't take action, you're never going to achieve your goals. So sometimes you just gotta really, I'm gonna say man up, but I know there's women watching this too. But so I guess man up is not a good word, but really just put your foot down and say, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to force myself to do this. If it goes wrong, whatever, I know I can just work harder in the future and make up for it. But what you just really need to take action. That's what literally every single guru and instructor says in basically every market out there, is just take action. There's no reason to be fearful of this. Do the research up front and you're probably going to be fine. And even if you're not, like, it's a learning experience. You can go move on to another type of business and you'll now know how to import products and you'll know how to advertise to customers better. So think of it as a learning experience. It's not the end of the world if you fail, but you need to take action, or else a year from now you're going to be sitting in the same spot watching more instructional videos rather than actually getting a product live. This is probably a fairly long video already, so I think I'll end it there. I hope that those tips really help you, and for those of you who are struggling with taking action, all I can really say is you have to do it. At some point, sooner or later, you're gonna have to, risk a bit, and to take that risk, that's how you're actually gonna see the reward. So if you guys need some extra motivation, maybe post a comment or something and I'll try to fire you up and so that you actually take some action. But there's nothing to be worried about, guys. Take action, follow your dreams. I mean, I've went from 8 months ago never having a product live to selling over $850 worth of units yesterday. The growth just is crazy, and you're never going to experience it if you don't do it. So that's it for this video, guys. Give it a thumbs up, leave some comments below, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.